welcome on into the latest edition of 4th and 4, everybody. Your one-stop shop to get you guys ready for the NFL's action on Sunday afternoon. I am Zach Conlon, sitting in as always to kick things off as we are entering Week 8 of the NFL season. Pretty much pushing on that halfway point. It's amazing how fast time flies in this league, how much has already happened so far, and we're going to get plenty more underway, more things that might be slowly starting to decide some of the possibilities in the NFL. As I bring in, of course, my two other buddies. Kelsey is off on vacation this week along with Nick, so it'll be us for the trio moving forward for these next 2 weeks, 8 and 9. Of course, Kelsey's good cohort in High-Low Sports, DJ Stewart, is with us, along with my good cohort from Inside the Walls, Jim Mernier. Gentlemen, welcome on in to Week 8 of the NFL. How are we all doing today?
We're hanging in there, the three best friends that anyone could have as we hold down the fort as he's off enjoying himself as well. So always fun to talk football with you guys, and I can't wait. And Jim, it looks like you got the Cowboys defense behind you right now.
Yeah, or a good defense against my allergies right now, but but yeah. So for warning people, if you see my screen go black, it's because I am blowing my nose, being respectful.
And we appreciate that very much. We don't need thunder coming. We don't need thunder or hard-hitting collisions coming through our ears when they act up.
Yes.
Well, yeah, look, it's a courtesy thing, you know, not just for us, but some of the people that do tune in, which we do want to thank those that tune in every week. I've been appreciating that a lot, getting some awesome viewership as of late this season. So
real
keep on building, keep on building that hype train, everybody. I'm just telling you. Well, I would say let's jump in as we do. Of course, quarter number one, this week's storylines. Main thing is, look, Tuesday comes up the trade deadline in the NFL, so more and more we've been seeing some high-profile trades. You guys already know about CMC going over, of course, to the 49ers. Robbie Anderson, when they were in that fire sale, they selling off to the Cardinals. My own team, Robert Quinn, he is now over to Philadelphia, and they got a pretty steal. He's a one-and-done player this year, 2 years voided from that contract. So it brings me the question to both of you and myself. Look, anything could happen before Tuesday. You can have trades happen over this current Sunday if you really want. Who is going to be moved here in the NFL before that Tuesday deadline that you think is next up on this list?
I'll go ahead and take the Band-Aid off on this one because there's been a lot of talk about Alvin Kamara to the Eagles. I think that's one to keep an eye on as well, especially if the Saints lose and continue to make my prediction of them being good this year look terrible. But the one that I think really stands out is, depending on what happens Monday night in Cleveland, Kareem Hunt might be on the move. Some teams have inquired about him, including a team of it, the one team that plays in New York and Buffalo, who feels like they are a running back away every single year. No matter what they do, they're a running back away because they just want Josh Allen to run it every play. But a Kareem Hunt gives you that, what they thought they're getting with James Cook, a dual threat type of running back who can run and catch. And you get him as a 1-year rental, so you don't have to worry about paying him. You can just bring him in. And down the stretch, you get a guy that, when he played with the Chiefs, he led the league in rushing before he was cut, while being a receiving threat as well. So that's something to keep an eye out for me as well. And if you're the Bills, you could trade a little high for him, like a 3rd-round pick maybe, because that pick's going to be so darn late in the draft, most likely. You're willing to part with it. So I look for Kareem Hunt to possibly be on the move if the Bengals take out the Browns and Cleveland, have the Browns drop to 2-6. I'm not saying a fire sale, but maybe a little lighter sale, just something like that as well too, maybe a match sale.
Okay, I see what you're saying. And I mean, Kareem Hunt, he's been talking. I think he's ready for his payday. And I think as much as it is weird to say that he has possibly gotten over a bit of what led him to Cleveland in the first place, I think he is ready to get his next big stint somewhere finally in the show. And he's still a star, and the Browns gave him a platform to do that. So it might be that time. They can't. I don't think if you have Nick Chubb on the other side, that you can, at some point, you won't be able to justify both of them. One of them will maybe have to hit the curb. I mean, Chicago Bears fan here, we're going to be dealing with that dilemma come this offseason. We got one of those two guys that are going to be asking for a good payday in David Montgomery. So I'm with you there. Jim, you thinking on Kareem Hunt? You have maybe other people in mind? Like, I know a certain team in Wisconsin has been linked to needing some sort of asset to help a quarterback that is struggling with young talent.
Oh, yeah, but the only rumors I know is because I'm here in Jacksonville. They only talk about Jacksonville down here, which is sucks.
Oh, of course.
But the two players I think are either Brian Burns from Carolina and Josh Allen from Jacksonville. Both of them have been connected. Burns has been connected to Miami, and Josh Allen's been connected to Buffalo. Which can be kind of weird, have two Josh Allens on the same team. But another one that's been starting to brew a little bit is a trade between wide receivers. Marvin Jones Jr. here in Jacksonville going to LA for Allen Robinson. That's actually a trade that's been in discussion down here for, I think, a week now. It hasn't been officially, but ever since they got rid of James Robinson to the Jets, you see all these trade talks starting happening, which it's unique because 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there was no such thing as trading players in the NFL by trade deadline. This is unique. This is new to the NFL. All these massive trades happen before the trade deadline. It's like you see this in Major League Baseball. You see this in the in NBA and hockey. You never see it in the NFL. Just recent, you see it now. But yeah, problem in Green Bay is that you got Aaron Rodgers and a bunch of receivers, and that was it. There's no one legit receiver in Green Bay. To answer your question, but yeah. Marvin Jones has been connected to that too. So Jacksonville's on a not really fire sale, but if Jacksonville doesn't win a game in London today, I expect either one of those guys, Josh Allen or Marvin Jones Jr., to not be on the team by the trade deadline.
Fascinating. I mean, Allen being such the promising young defensive edge rusher that he is, that one, I mean, sure, you might get some assets. I just find that hard to believe. With Doug Peterson being there his first year too. I think they did spend a decent amount in free agency, but I think it would just be shocking to move on to it from a key piece already like that.
Well, Marvin Jones is on his final year of his contract, and he's actually getting paid more than Christian Kirk this year. And Christian Kirk has a bigger contract than Marvin Jones. There's a lot more issues in Jacksonville just for receivers, by the way, and not just because of James Robinson. I think what's going on in Jacksonville with all the trades rumors is that people here in Jacksonville think, oh, this is the same team from last year. This team's lost 4 games all by one possession. They're losing NFL football games by one possession. That's what you do in the NFL. You lose by a possession. And teams that lose by a possession are usually not bad teams. They just don't make the play in the fourth quarter. They're not getting boat raced like, unfortunately, the Texans have. They beat us, but Jesus. Anyways, but yeah, it's Tuesday. It's trade deadline, and if Jacksonville doesn't win on Sunday or today, because when this is playing, they're already playing. The game might be over when this thing plays. I don't expect either. If they win, I don't see them trading. But if they do lose, I see both those guys trade. But another trade that you didn't mention or talk about was Patrick Mahomes getting another weapon from the Giants and Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, that one I haven't brought up.
And I like that move because I don't know why he wasn't used in New York. He's going to be used a lot in Kansas City now with Mahomes. So that's going to be an intriguing one to watch.
Well, that one I actually like. And, I mean, credit this year, the reason he wasn't being used is injury-related issues. I know there's been tons of – honestly, there's so many memes online about him, about that, using that, like, Rise from the Dead guy, coming up and kind of partying with his friends, and he's Kadarius Toney coming up with Patrick Mahomes. I like this, though. I mean, the spurts we got from him last season, I think people had a ton of promise on Toney and being in this offense. It's just that we've seen what Brian DeBall is all about. He doesn't care about your draft status. He doesn't care about the money you are owed. It is about winning football games. So if you are not towards the overall team, he will move on from you. They can't move on from Galloway because that's too big of a contract. So clearly Toney will get you some draft capital back is what he's looking at, which is, I mean, it just shows you, like I said, it's a different culture now over in New York. And it's working. I mean, you're 6-1 for a reason. They clearly have turned the corner with, I think, working with less than some other football teams right now with better rosters, having the same, if not better records. So, yeah.
Well, just look at the quarterback. Last year,
that's one of the main reasons why this is working.
Last year, Giants fans wanted him out, and now he's the savior of the New York Giants, just based on the coaching switch. The NFL is unique. It's like players can stink, new coaching or new team, flip switch, and they're.
Oh, I mean, shoot, Jim, you got firsthand experience seeing that last week. Yeah. You would know.
Yeah, I know. That bowl game atmosphere here in Jacksonville.
bowl game atmosphere.
Yeah,
I do think that Kadarius Toney pick is much what you mentioned too. I think in Kansas City, we're going to see him look even better than his draft stats was, considering Kansas City is no longer as bombs away offense as they were with Tyreek Hill back. We're nothing under 40 yards. He out there somewhere. Since they've been doing a lot underneath, Kadarius Toney's really good with the ball in his hands. Getting the ball, catching the ball, getting open, a little streaky sometimes, but once they get the ball in his hands, he has a lot of Percy Harvin-esque qualities. So I think with Andy Reid drawing some random wackiness up on the chalkboard with a bunch of pirouettes at the goal line and Travis Kelce under center, and we know how creative he gets with all of his wackiness. I think that's going to bring the best out of Kadarius Toney. And I think it's going to even open up a little bit for Juju Smith-Schuster and Travis Kelce. We've seen they basically own the middle of the field. Mecole Hardman's, I hate using the term gadget guy because it has a bad connotation with it, but it's kind of his forte is get him in end arounds, get him underneath, and just let him run. He's not really a true receiver like Tyreek Hill was for him. He didn't really fit that role. But I think he could take the get down there. Kadarius Toney could take the underneath and dance, and they can almost like two guys equal one Tyreek, I guess, if that makes sense. So I like this move, and they're already the highest scoring team in the league, and you just gave them a versatile playmaker. This is I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs, I don't want to say run the table, but like run the table -1 the rest of the way. I think if he's able to fit in and not be injured, that's a very, very dangerous fit. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes might make a run for MVP now. Bold, way too early prediction. I think Kadarius Toney is going to be a big trade asset for him if he can stay healthy.
But speaking of Patrick Mahomes, he's playing smart football. He's not the Patrick Mahomes from last year or 2 years ago. He's just not slinging it. They're like, oh, he might be open. Let me just throw it. He's actually, the game's slowing down for him. And when the game's slowing down for him, he's the best quarterback in the league. And I know this is going to be a strange statement, or maybe a bizarre statement. I think we're finally seeing our Patriot versus Colts new rivalry in the NFL between the Bills and the Chiefs. We're going to see AFC championship games after AFC championship games after AFC championship games that revolve Chiefs and Bills, based on how that operation is. You may get the random like Pittsburgh Steelers back in the day that get in there, but who's that third team?
Yeah,
like there's a couple of teams for buying for that position, but
no, that's definitely what I think people are looking at this right now. And I think that in the next evolution of that, it'll become this playoffs, and especially if and when Josh Allen does get over the hump and moves past Kansas City to either get to the Super Bowl or at least the AFC Championship game in this regard from last year. So, yeah, it's happening that way. It's definitely, I think, the most hype matchup that anyone wants to see anymore is Bills Chiefs, just for what they're loading up on. And honestly, this is where I'm wondering if the Bills do pull the trigger, because Kansas City clearly they had that close 4-point loss a few weeks back. They're loading up with receiver talent, as you can see. And Buffalo here, they've been linked to a few different trades. Nothing I think that's too serious yet, but you wonder how much you think they're going to be pushing all in. There's currently 6-1 right now, keeping up with the rest of the AFC, and also, still a pretty competitive AFC East at this time. It's just I could say it's just the Jets, but that Jets defense is no slouch.
Not at all. And I know I mentioned them getting Kareem Hunt, but after seeing that trade, I wouldn't be surprised if they go after Alvin Kamara, who's been possibly linked as well too. Yeah. We talked about them having late picks. I could see them giving up a second round and maybe like another late pick, something that most other teams in the playoff hunt aren't going to give up for him. Because it's turned into, do you guys remember back in like 2013, 2012-ish, Lakers and the Heat basically just arms race, picking up a random free, just loading up super teams. I can see the Bills and the Chiefs starting to do that a little bit here, where the Bills are like, oh, okay, so you get a Kadarius Toney. How does AK-41 look to you next to Josh Allen all of a sudden? So I could see it turning into a mini arms race as well too. And then the great plot twist is at the end of it, and neither one of them goes to the Super Bowl because somebody sneaks up out of nowhere and goes on the run necessary. But I do like that point out from you, Zach.
I'd say a better comparison with the Heat and Lakers, it'd be with the Heat and the Celtics back in the day. When LeBron went to the Heat and you had the big three in the Celtics and you had the new thing, those two met in the Eastern Conference Finals for I think like 4 straight years. One of them was going to the NBA Finals, and they were not guaranteed to win the NBA Finals because whoever was out west. Now, I know that this is going to be an interesting question for you guys. Remember the preseason, we were talking about how the NFC West was going to put all the playoff teams in, or AFC West, with Chargers, Chiefs, Raiders, they get in the playoffs. I think that's now the AFC East, with the Dolphins, Jets, Bills, and possibly the Patriots backdooring themselves into a wild card.
I mean, if the Pats can be less indecisive about their quarterback situation sooner, that would be great. And then otherwise, I don't think that's crazy. Miami's got Tua back, so that helps a bunch. The Jets defense is really the driving force for them right now.
Yeah.
Robert Saleh doing his own bread and butter routine, because otherwise,
Patriots defense is good too.
yeah,
That whole
right. Because
division has good defenses.
Because boy, I don't know anyone in New York that would come to me and say Zach Wilson's the one that's pushing these guys over the edge right now.
He's been absolutely awful. How they've been winning in spite of him is kind of wild as well. I do think the Bengals and the Ravens, one of those two might have something to say about that. Like, hold on now, guys. But I don't think I think you see two from the north and two from the east, maybe even three as well. Like, it's definitely not out of line of comparison because we look at the West. It's the Chiefs, kind of the Chargers, but the Raiders and the Broncos, they're let's riding to the bottom of the scoreboard. The South is a travesty. We won't want to talk about them. And then we look at the North. It's the Ravens and the Bengals with the Steelers and the Browns kind of pulling up the rear. And then the East, as you mentioned, everybody's right there. It means the Jets could come back down to earth. The Patriots can go up. I do agree. I think the AFC East is surprised. No one predicted this before the season. It's probably the best division in the AFC as well too. So I think that is definitely a fair statement. As of right now, anything could change really quickly once teams are like, oh, just hit Zach Wilson and don't throw it to Sauce Gardner. We got something.
And before we start recording, I told DJ an interesting stat that was mentioned down here about the AFC South. This is the history of the AFC South. Whoever's in first place, once they get a 3-game lead from first place to the second place team, no team has come back from that 3-game deficit to win the division. So Tennessee wins this week because they beat the Titans, and let's say the Jaguars lose, and I think the Colts are off this week, aren't they?
No, they play Washington, but they'll
lose. So Washington. If they lose to Washington, there's that 3-game lead. So you can basically put the little check mark by the Titans as clinched division because in the history of the AFC South, no team has come back being 3 games back of the division leader to win the division.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect segue to the other piece of news I wanted to talk about this week. And I think it's because, it's also because DJ's linked to this. Sam Ehlinger, is going to be, and screw it. We'll make this my storyline too. I had a different one that was a little more cheesy, but this one I think is a good conversational piece because of just some of the failings of what the Colts have done in recent years. Sam Ehlinger is now going to, after coming back now fully healthy, he will now be starting this week against the Washington Commanders. I know that Matt Ryan has an injury issue that they're dealing with, but what was more jarring during this announcement was that doesn't matter what happens with Matt Ryan, he will not be starting again the rest of the season. They're sitting him purposefully, and if you go back into some of the some of the contract reasons and what is behind it, ballparking about $17 million they'd be saving just to be kind of conservative here. Twofold thing of discussion. First off, Chris Ballard. What do we make of him at this point? Quarterback decisions have not been there whatsoever for the most part in this regime. Secondly, I guess this even ties in somewhat to our trade discussion. Can you even move Matt Ryan, or do you just cut your losses? Because it feels like no matter what, at the end of the season, I don't see him being here for his full contract length now. They are almost punting faster. They're punting. This is the fastest they punt on a QB in this era, and they've continuously tried to re-up with former superstars to kind of just buy time to win. I don't know.
Jim, I'm going to take this one really quick because Kelsey and I talked about this one out with Pat Steve right afterwards. But
I'm going to start with Colts fans, so go ahead.
We don't tell the people that. Don't put paint in that light. The first thing I'll mention is with Chris Ballard. He is what me and Kelsey kind of joked about this. If the team making the team is a burrito, for example, he's outstanding at picking the best lettuce and the best cheese on the market, but he's absolutely terrible when it comes to finding the tortilla and the meat. Or like the quarterback, the left tackle, the corner that's the corner minus Stephon Gilmore for the most part. Like those key pieces to win, they need a dominant edge rusher. He's struggled with that. They've drafted like 9 defensive ends, and the only one that's any good is broken right now. And then, but when it comes to off-ball linebacker, offensive guard, things like that, like third string tight end, second receiver, he's pretty decent at. He's really good at. And that's right tackle, for example, not left tackle. And that's where all their money's tied up. And suddenly it's coming to roost. You have an old quarterback, former MVP, but it's wet tissue paper offensive line, and teams have figured it out too. Matt Ryan's arm is clearly shot a little bit too. Like it's about a 40-yard cap at this point, and that's if he gets to step into it. Your running game is non-existent because there's 14 guys in the box. And even if there's only 6 guys, we've seen Quentin Nelson on his back how many times this year? Like it feels like it's a regular. He's been on his back more times this year than Zach Martin has holding penalties in his whole career. It's been a full team regression, and all the money's tied up. So I'm not saying he's on the I'm not saying he should be fired, but that seat is steaming right now. And he's a really good scout, but not the best team builder, is how I kind of describe him. As far as Matt Ryan, it's done. It's like 2015 Peyton Manning, but not Peyton Manning, if that makes sense. Like he's a fantastic human. He's already basically stepped in as quarterback coach right now with Sam Ellinger and Nick Foles and them. He's consummate pro, but no one's going to trade for him. They're going to probably cut him in the offseason to cut their losses to save that $17 million with like the injury as well as the roster bonus. But at this point, that I kind of joked about it, but the Colts, unless Sam Ellinger is that dude, he's like mini Tom Brady 2.0, 6th-round pick that comes out of nowhere, they might have to considerably look into either not tanking, obviously, but they got to start looking at their assets like, all right, DeForest Buckner costs a lot of money. He's a defensive tackle, not an edge rusher, and he's not Aaron Donald. What can we package him in some stuff to trade up and go get one of these elite quarterbacks? Because this quarterback class is like 6 deep as far as first-round talent has. So if I'm the Colts, it's not a rebuild, but it's okay, there's going to be some changes. The head coach is probably gone. The GM, we'll see. There's a lot to I can go on and on and on and rambling because this has been the most disappointing team the last 2 consecutive years when you look at off-season projection to real-life situation. But I see some changes.
Here's what's crazier is that, yeah, they got swept by the Titans this year, but it still feels so early. It's only you could look at this from the outside perspective and go, well, yeah, but there's still only a game out right now. Tennessee's 4-2, but and then you start digging in and you just kind of feel, it doesn't feel like it's a game out, I guess. Like you unless you're following this team on surface level, you probably check in on the South and you go, oh, this is anyone's division still right now for the most part. The Colts are right there.
1-3-1 in the division. Somehow you've had 5 division games in 8 games. I don't know how that scheduling happened, but you can't win any tiebreakers that way. And so that's also the conference tiebreaker if you're going for a wild card. Your record against the AFC is dog you know what at this point. I mean, yeah, you beat the Chiefs somehow, woohoo! But other than that, it's been rough. So I agree with you. It's weird because numbers say you're in it. Eye test says, oh, good God, no.
You would believe so. I do find, like I said, I just find that whole situation fascinating. Jim, you're in the AFC South biz, obviously.
Don't put that evil on us, Zach. Quit talking like that about us. People don't need to know that.
I might as well get the outsider's perspective in the division here. I mean, Sam Ellinger's getting the start. Matt Ryan, unfortunately, this might be the final stop on his career. It's weird. Colts kind of been doing this to some people. I go back to Andre Johnson as well, and I'm just like, we keep seeing these Andre Johnson archetypes come to Indianapolis to do the retirement home bit.
Well, Andre Johnson at least got to go to the Titans for a year and score 2 touchdowns on the Colts, then go away. You got to get a little redemption in his final.
That's true. You know what? I'll remove that.
No, you're right though. They go there to die basically. When Indy signs older free agents, they go there to die at this point.
Your thoughts, Jim?
It's the curse of Andrew Luck. Once he did the surprise retirement, when he did the surprise retirement, the Indianapolis Colts were a consistent playoff team, a consistent team making either the wild card or division champs. I'm going head to head with the Titans, and when he did the surprise retirement, it got the Colts off guard. What the Colts should have done is stuck with Jacoby Brissett a little bit longer than they had to, because he's still a quarterback that's going to win you games. Jacoby Brissett, I honestly want to say this, is the Indianapolis Colts version of David Garrard for Jacksonville back in the day. He's a good quarterback. He's going to win you games, but he's not going to win you the big game like a playoff game. He's going to get you there, but he's not going to win it. Problem is with the Colts, they kept going to Philip Rivers, then they went to Carson Wentz, now they went to Matt Ryan. You went to a guy who was definitely retiring, a guy that still doesn't know what's going on. Even then, he got benched in Washington. Go figure. Washington and Colts play this week. And you got a guy who is still scoring from 28-3 in the Super Bowl back in the day. But for the Colts, I kind of agree with DJ. The record doesn't really show what's going on there. Like Jacksonville right now is 2-4, but you look at Jacksonville, we have a lot of optimism because we're losing games by possession and we have a lot of younger talent. We're in the midst of a rebuild, and the Colts have a lot of good veterans. Like they're a much older team. They're just holding on to something that they know they can achieve this year. If you know what I'm trying to bring up as my screen starts flickering. But as for the AFC South, again, the streak in Indy still exists. The streak in Jacksonville still exists between our two franchises. But Ellinger, it's kind of strange. You got Ellinger versus Tyler Heineke this week. It's going to be whoever thought that was going to be the matchup.
Marquee matchup right there.
Yeah. But problem what I've seen over the Colts the last couple of weeks is injuries. Like they've had a whole running back core out 1 week, then they had a whole wide receiver core out 1 week, then they had the whole right side of their offensive line out one. It's very inconsistent. But Matt Ryan, again, like what DJ said, 40 yards max, probably. Yeah.
If you can get
You
the
ain't.
full hip rotation, a full step into it, maybe like like that's about it.
There
That's
was
the
a
best.
there
That
was a
one against
pass.
Jacksonville, that was the max.
The pass that he did in week 1 against Jacksonville, where he threw it up in double coverage. I'm like, was that tipped? Did I reverse or rewatched him when I got home? No, no one was around him, and he chucked, and that thing was like like a little flutter. I'm like, it's gonna be a long season for Indy, but at least they got 3 wins. And when, yeah, they at least they tied the Texans, and Jacksonville lost to the Texans. So the AFC South is such a cluster besides the Titans. So yeah,
Well,
um,
actually, I think the most consistent team in the South is the Houston Texans for the most part. But there was optimism that they might be an upset just for Davis Mills and company. I think they're also a few years out before they're going to be relevant again. But
All
I
you need to know
digress.
about the AFC South is after 1 week, nobody had a win and 2 of the teams played each other.
correct.
Every
That's
team was
true.
0 in the win column after week 1. That's all you need to
That's
know
so
about
true.
And knowing this dang division, the division winners actually somehow going to end up in the AFC Championship game.
The hilarious thing is that
That's
the
how
NFC
weird this
South.
saves. That's how weird this division is. Is the division winner gets in and they're like, oh, there's no way they're going to go, and they're a 4 seed, and the next thing you know, they're in the fourth quarter of the AFC Championship game in the game. You're like, how in the hell is that team even here? Kind of situation. Just saying, that's our division in a nutshell. Every year.
Welcome to the AFC South. Well, from the tech guys, I got a bit of a clearance to do this other headline story. As this is the storyline to watch, and this was a goofier one. I'm glad we did swerve and talk about the Sam Ellinger trade, because that was going to be on me for not, the Sam Ellinger start. It wasn't a trade. That's false information. I just tried to drop on you all. Here's the deal. As you are seeing, everyone in the NFL wants their own stadium these days to get renewed. They want that big, shiny new thing that everyone else is getting. LA and Las Vegas are getting beautiful domes. And then you see Tennessee, they're getting an upgraded dome. It's kind of nice. A little bit of a box. Almost looks like a big, fancy mall. I'm not even joking. Look at the renders. The thing looks like some fancy Nashville mall that they put together that has a beautiful Top Golf. I've seen that too. But look, I'm old school. And so when I see the Buffaloes getting a new stadium, and they didn't go with a retractable roof, they didn't go with a roof, they stuck with outdoors. My thing is, look, guys, I like old school football. And I know that the NFL's going to more of, we want the corporate dollars. We want the comfy seats. We want everyone to not feel like they're going to freeze their ass off. But I'm telling you, there is some magic in these outdoor games. The sport originated in the outdoor setting. Weather is part of the game. You should not be removing what is an aspect of football for decades on decades. I get that you are saying to move the sport forward. I say keep what is great about it and what can help change and make strategies different for each game as well. Not every coach, to me, gets the same atmosphere. I think that some of it is just that the sport and its fans have changed. That's fine. But Buffalo continues to be, I think, the one that surprises me the most in saying, hey, even with this new stadium, we're going to spend millions of dollars and keep it outdoors. Keep the magic of the snow. Keep the magic of that small community coming back and what they love the most. And it's being rowdy and having a damn good time out in the cold. For that, I end my story more in just kind of a personal opinion note saying, thank you, Buffalo, for keeping the outdoor stadium alive in the NFL. Without that, and without further ado, I move it on to the second quarter with DJ's Best Bets, giving you everything you need to know about what you want to know about betting this week in the NFL. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Zach. Very much appreciated there as well. And you know what? I'm going to simply say retractable roofs across the board. So you can still keep the atmosphere, but at the same time, if we get an Arctic polar vortex, there is an option so kids don't have to die at the video games and turn into White Walkers from Game of Thrones. But yes, I agree with you. At the same time, keep it alive as well. So today we're going to go into some betting as well too. We've had some pretty good runs across the board. Zach's got his weekly feature that's been surprisingly good, and the last few weeks we've been hitting on some of these. So
don't count out your kickers.
It's time.
I'm just telling you.
We're going to look at a few games here. The first one we're going to look at is we're going to go with the Bills and the Packers, the Sunday night marquee game as well, which before the season looked like an absolute banger. Now there are question marks as the Packers have not quite lived up to their end of the billing. But for this one, the one that sticks out to me, there's an 11-point spread at the time that I looked at this. Green Bay is given 11 points. I think they're going to cover that 11-point spread. Not saying they win. They'll still probably lose by a touchdown, maybe even 10 points. But they're going to cover that 11 points, whether it's a weirdly close game, or the Bills beat the brakes off from Aaron Rodgers stat pads at the end to make it 27-37, something like that. Green Bay will cover that 11-point spread. So that's what I'm thinking as well, too. Zach, I'm going to go over to you. What are we looking at for Bills-Packers?
I always love looking at of course, the props here. And this one, I'll be honest with you, sounds a little blasphemous, but hear me out. I just think it's because of the matchup, and it's been a rough year for the Packers. Not really much trust going around these days, slinging the ball around. I think Aaron Rodgers throws an interception and breaks that over half interception mark for your player prop bet at plus 133 for Caesars Sportsbook. It's hard to believe you guys all have heard about the historical interception numbers that Rodgers has. Hear me out, though. Through 7 weeks, he already has thrown 3 picks. That sounds nuts for Aaron Rodgers. The Buffalo Bills, one of the top defenses, top 5, if I remember right, actually overall number 1 defense in the NFL right now in statistical categories. And this is a receiving core that so far through 7 weeks has proven nothing that it can get things done. It has only led to frustrations, as you can see, for Rodgers through all these games. Everyone is billing this game as an, oh, I'm not going to cuss that much moment on here for Green Bay, and maybe like a final straw on what could be happening towards the Packers' future. I just think Rodgers gets too much pressure. He's going to start forcing the issue to try and make up some magic for a game that I think is becoming a little more crucial than people thought it would be at this time of the year for the Cheeseheads up north. I think he slings at least 1 pick somewhere. Give it to me here against the Buffalo Bills.
What a time to be alive. We're actually betting on Aaron Rodgers to throw picks. How things have changed in the last 15 years, haven't they? So next, we're going to go to you, Jim. What are we looking at for Packers Bills?
If you want easy money, Stephon Diggs gets the first score touchdown, plus 470 from Caesar Sportsbook. Every time, 470, yeah, put $10 on. If he gets the first touchdown, what are you going to lose? $10? No, you're going to win $470. So go right ahead. So get that.
Why not? I mean, it's not Yair Alexander's not. They're not using him to track number 1 receivers. Just put Stephon Diggs away from him and let him run. He's been arguably the best receiver in the game this year, not named Tyreek Hill. So that
the Packers have given up an open possession score all season. Not touchdowns, but they have every possession to open the season.
And I do remember what Justin Jefferson did to them week 1. So betting on those marquee receivers against them seems like a pretty safe bet as well, too. So next, we're going to move on to our next game. We're heading to that AFC South again. We're going to talk Texans and the Titans. We blasted them for a few minutes, and we're going to go right back. Texans versus Titans. Derrick Henry is the king of Houston at this point, is what I'm going to call him, because his last handful of games, he's gone for 200 multiple times. So in this one, Derrick Henry scoring 2 touchdowns at plus 240. I like those odds. I'm going to take that one. Give me Derrick Henry getting 2 touchdowns. And Jim, we'll go back to you on this one. What are you looking at for Titans-Texans?
Titans-Texans. Thinking of the AFC South and how god-awful these games are. Over-unders at 40.5. That's too high for an AFC South game. Give me the Titans in the under at negative 110. Houston they only run the football, bad passing. Tennessee's defense is good. This is going to be a battle between 2 mediocre quarterbacks and a running game. So the clock is going to go fast in this game, and the final score is going to be like 21-10 or something like that. Give me the under in this one.
Absolutely as well. So you can always count on the AFC South teams to disappoint on the over-unders as well. So Zach, we're going to go to you. What are we looking at for Titans-Texans?
I can't believe I'm even saying this, but I'm going to go with a receiving anytime touchdown for Robert Woods in this regard. And my only thing is, yes, the matchup will definitely say history is on Derrick Henry's side, and I think he definitely gets his numbers. He's back. Last 3 games, he's back to his full volume, his full regular dominating self. We saw it last week, ripping off that 17-yard final nail in the coffin type of run. That's King Henry back to his prime. However, the Tennessee Titans definitely are a pass defense that you can find some opportunities against. It is their weaker link. I do think that Robert Woods, they are trying to diversify that offense as much as it sounds ridiculous over there with Ryan Tannehill and company. I say Robert Woods, you get maybe like a quick 5-yard slant for a TD at the goal line. Trust me, Derrick Henry's going to carry this game, but I think you at least get 1 passing touchdown. I've got Woods taking this TD in this one. At plus 235 odds, by the way.
What an underrated pick, though. As I know, Robert Woods come off the injury, but one thing he did really well in LA was blocking and being used as that really tight back, that really tight, almost wing back, and getting brought in motion from the blocking end. what team needs blocking receivers more than Tennessee, right? So underrated
good Lord,
pick.
they do.
I like that chance of him just like off a bootleg or something in the red zone. So the last game we're going to look at is, we mentioned it earlier, Colts taking on Washington, the not marquee quarterback matchup of Sam Ehlinger and Taylor Heineke, two guys who almost are exactly the same, honestly, when you look at them on paper as well. So for this one, I'm going to go with the new kid, Sam Ehlinger, to score a touchdown at plus 360, a mobile kid. In the preseason, they used a lot of his legs. A lot of the talk has been talking about getting him out on the move, letting him use his legs. I think if they can get into the red zone, big if. I think that could be an area where he uses his legs, gets outside of the pocket, and finds his way into the end zone, or even something goofy like maybe they run a Philly special in Indy, and he catches it as a more mobile type of guy too in the goal line situation. So give me Sam Ehlinger crossing the goal line in this game, and we're going to go back to you on this one. Jim, what are we looking at for the Colts and Washington bets?
Well, I'm going to steal something from Zach here. Indy's first possession will have a field goal attempt going in the kicking side of things at plus 475. I don't think there's going to be a lot of touchdowns in the game. I think this is going to be a field goal battle up in Indy. So yeah, give me field goal attempt, not field goal made. Field goal attempt means, hey, if they line up for a field goal, easy money for the Colts.
Okay, so if you're going field goals, we know Zach has a weekly field goal segment. Are we going back-to-back field goals here up in Indy? Is the dome
I have to. This is the last choice in quarter two. But look, I'll double up on this. We'll go with this theme. Jim's opened the door, so he's saying that there's going to be little to no touchdowns to be recalled. If I'm looking at Caesar's book numbers right now, both Chase McLaughlin and Joey Sly have plus 100 odds, plus 118 for Sly, plus 126 to be under 1.5 extra points at this time for this game. I wasn't as bullish on this, but you know what? I'm going to go with Jim. Convinced me. You know what? Why not? If you want to debate and take either one, screw it. Go with it, because I think you got a new QB. You got a defense on Indianapolis that's going to keep you in the game. Taylor Heineke, I love the kid to death, but this is one I could see that could be just a field goal fest. And it does. Remember, the key word is made extra points. You need touchdowns for those, gentlemen. So I think you can keep that underneath. Otherwise, if you want kicking points, well, it's a little tougher, but you do have a plus 104 for Joey Sly to get over 6.5 if you want it. So could we have a kicking parlay? Maybe we could have a kicking parlay. I think Jim and I just constructed you a three-prong kicking parlay. Congratulations. Yeah. Take the kicking parlay on this one. I think you might land a few.
Well, if it's anything like when we saw the Colts and the Broncos, I think it will be a kick fest, and it looks like, and I think, you know what? I think you guys just kind of stole my thunder there. I'm supposed to be doing the parlays here as well, too. But you know what? This is the
Don't worry.
Lower odds as well. So somebody put those kicking parlays together and let us know what the odds are.
Don't worry, yours will be better than ours. We guarantee it. But if you want a stupid, fun parlay to tell your friends, take that one home with you. Throw like $10 on it and have fun.
I thought we were doing NFL, not EPL. What's going on here?
Hey, the World Cup's right around the corner. We got to get in the
spirit. For sure.
You know, so your guys' parlay is probably more likely to hit because those odds will add up nicely. We're going to go now into TJ's best bets, where I put together a parlay here as well. And you know what? I'm going to keep mine a little more erratic than theirs. So we're going to start with the Bears, 10-point underdogs to Dallas. Dallas will win the game, but the Bears will cover that. They run the ball so effectively, and I think that will not neutralize Micah Parsons, but that will somewhat mitigate him from eating them alive the entire time. So I think it'll stay close. No Zeke Elliott, so it'll be the Tony Pollard show. Cowboys offense, 29th in the league right now. Look for it to be a close game. The Bears cover a ridiculous 10-point spread. The Seahawks, the team that everybody knew was going to be leading the NFC South and NFC West at this time of the year, right? This is the one we all predicted at this point. No DK Metcalf, a little bit of problems, but not too many problems. Is against the Giants, I think Marquise Goodwin will get an anytime touchdown. Pencil him in to randomly catch a bomb from Geno Smith and walk into the end zone. Probably not the fourth quarter, because that's when the Giants do their best work. But I look for Marquise Goodwin across the goal line. And now, of course, we go to the Eagles taking on the Steelers. Eagles have been an absolute juggernaut, in part because Jalen Hurts is vulturing red zone touchdowns from all of the other players on fantasy, which means once they get in the red zone, look for a Jalen Hurts first touchdown score in that game. If you put all three of these together, you got 4,744 odds. So bet $1, win a nice chunk of change there as well, too. So if you put this together with Zach and Jim's kicking parlay, there could be some nice money to get there. You bet $1 on each one, you'll get all of your money back because one of them is bound to hit.
The odds definitely here are larger than the kicking parlay, but I'm with you. The Bears covering 10-point spread. Met Eberflus in the second half. Fun little fact: no double-digit scoring has been allowed in a second half this year against the Bears.
Absolutely, definitely something to keep an eye out for. But that will do it here for quarter number 2. We will go from talking about bets So now we're going to head over to quarter 3 where we talk fantasy football, where Jim will lead us the way and help you win your fantasy week. So Jim, go ahead and get ready and take it away.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Week 8, BBS and Jim's picks for fantasy. And if you're listening to me and you're doing my picks, you will have the same record as me in fantasy at 3-4 in both leagues. Let's get it going with the quarterbacks for this week. Dak Prescott versus Kyler Murray. Dak's taking on the Chicago Bears. Murray's taking on Minnesota. Both these guys are inconsistent so far this season, you could say. But overall, Prescott is the main weapon in Chicago, in Dallas, and he's actually played very well against Chicago in their history, which is kind of ironic. But with right now, with 61% completion percentage this season, with Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, who you got starting? Starting with DJ.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep this graphic up for a little bit longer because that's going to help me make my decision here as well, too. Is we do see Dak Prescott. We haven't seen a lot of him this year, but they've struggled a little bit. He's projected 22. I don't think he's going to quite get that. Kyler Murray is also projected 22. But the big caveat is, if you look at this little disclaimer here, Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer released just the other day, and Kyler Murray's record during Call of Duty release weeks is a bit of a struggle, to say the least. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's not very good. They're going against Minnesota, a really talented defense, but that is a little bit concerning as well, too. But I'm going against the odds. I'm sticking with Kyler Murray. He is going to overcome the Call of Duty demons this week. Give me Kyler Murray to just slightly outperform Dak because, as I mentioned in that Bears game, I think it's going to be relatively close as well. So give me the Cardinals by a slim margin. Give me Kyler Murray by a slim margin in that one.
Clearly, you all saw me grabbing at my eyes when I saw the little note on the side. Clever.
My God, that was funny.
Clever. I am going with Kyler Murray, though. I'm going to tell you this right now, and maybe this is just the Bears fan in me, but Dak Prescott, yes, he'll have a second week of rust off, but Chicago's pass defense is their strength, very much so. It is right now their bread and butter on holding down teams, keeping games tight. I think that they lean a lot more on Tony Pollard and potentially Zeke Elliott, who is apparently on track for this game to possibly be back in. So that being said, with Chicago, of course, having their weak link on the ground, and the fact that I think this will be a little bit more of a closer and lower scoring contest than some of us might appear on the Dallas side, I'm going to go with Kyler Murray. Yeah, he's got the game that's going to be coming up this week, but I think there's a few more opportunities against Minnesota, even with Modern Warfare 2 dropping.
Dang you, Kelsey. that was perfect.
That was beautiful.
Let's go into the running back situation here of Josh Jacobs versus Nick Chubb. Both these running backs are going up against defenses that have kind of struggled against the rush in recent weeks, especially in New Orleans with that, what do you want to say, the carousel of the quarterback position right now in New Orleans. And Nick Chubb, again, he is the bell horse or bell cow, wherever you want to say, with the Cleveland Browns. Who you guys starting against the Saints and Bengals this week? Zach.
Oh, this is so hard because Josh Jacobs is arguably the hottest running back in the NFL, and Josh McDaniels, I think he just said F it, threw his papers up in the air and said, let's get this big bowling ball running around, and we'll just let passing happen when it happens. Honestly, if I'm looking up at this matchup, I'm probably going to lean slightly to Josh Jacobs, and that's hard to say because I'm not a guy that usually likes to lean on the guys that are booming multiple weeks in a row. Generally, my superstition is you're going to see a bust game or someone where he comes back down to earth. I don't know if it's this game, though. Right now, Las Vegas' offense is just kicking on all cylinders, and a lot of it's because of Josh Jacobs. I say he continues that trend. Maybe it's not as big of a boom, but I think it's enough of a boom to where you can probably get a little bit more than Nick Chubb against the Cincinnati Bengals.
DJ.
This is probably a must-win game for the Saints because luckily for them, the NFC South is terrible, so they're still in the thick of it. But they do almost have to win this game, and I think they're going to see the same thing, and they're going to be committed to slowing down Josh Jacobs. And plus, for the first time in a long time, Waller, Renfro, and Adams are all healthy at the same time. So I could see Josh McDaniels getting a little bit greedy, maybe he's picking up all those papers he threw to the ground and trying to cook something up. So I'm going to take Nick Chubb for no other reason than he's been the best running back in fantasy and this year as well. And they are in the Stefanski Browns era, they're 4-0 against the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think I think if they want to continue that trend, it's going to feature a lot of Nick Chubb. So he'll do it all in the first half because Cincinnati's second half defense is outstanding. Sure. But I'm going to go with Nick Chubb just based on, as you mentioned, I'm worried Josh Jacobs' boom might slow down a little bit here.
Let's get to the receiver part of this segment. We have Jared Jeudy and Michael Pittman going up against two defenses that are very suspect against the pass this year. I don't know how to really describe this, but Jared Judy's numbers don't look that too hot this season. But when you're playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, you look like a Hall of Famer. Just ask Michael Pittman from the other couple weeks ago. Who you got going to start in this one? DJ, I almost forgot who went off last.
I don't trust either one of them as far as I can throw them, and that is not very far. So I don't think they both are on terrible passing offense. They're both good receivers, just in unfortunate situations. I'm going to go with Michael Pittman because he's been getting more volume where Judy's had been more big plays. And Sam Miller's going to have to throw the ball at least on occasion. So I think a few times he might just F-it Pittman out there somewhere. And Washington's secondary, as you mentioned, not the strength of their core. It's the front line. So I think there's a few times you see Michael Pittman just win a few I'm better than you balls. And I'm still concerned about Russell Wilson and his not getting jet lag and all that, and his not pooping twice a week or something like that he's going with now. Like, there's a lot of problems I have with that Broncos offense, so I'm not touching any of them with a 10-foot pole.
It's hard for me to do this because I really don't want to pick the meme team at this point in the season for anything. Mm-hmm. But, my issue of uncertainty is what has weighed into this pick. I know Sam Ehlinger has had some decent preseason starts. I get it. The kid's young. The kid's got a lot of potential. But gosh darn it, that Jacksonville secondary is one that I think he can find some opportunities. And Broncos country will ride just enough. Give me Jerry Jeudy, maybe like one or two more catches than Michael Pittman. Not too much. But this one's so hard for me to pick because I don't trust either, just like DJ. But I'm only going to pick Jeudy simply because I need to see what Sam's like in game and if he can deliver consistently to Michael Pittman without any issue. Plus, that Commanders front is pretty formidable, and I think will cause some pressure just given how the Colts line is this year.
Well, let's get into the flex situation where I usually do a running back and receiver. Darius Slayton and Latavius Murray are both go up against the Jaguars and Seattle Seahawks this week. Darius Slayton showed out against Jacksonville, like I said, everyone does. And Murray has Jacksonville this week. It could be, again, more of the rock with the Broncos taking on the Jaguars. Flex, I actually have one of these guys on my team at flex right now, and I got Slayton starting against Seattle. So I'm just going to put that caveat there. What about you, Zach?
I like how Latavius Murray is going to have a word with you later on about
pronouncing his name. Yeah.
Just throwing that out there while
when
we're
I say Lavates, sorry.
Levantes Murray.
Levantes, yeah, Latavius.
You're gonna have someone looking up Levantes from this show, like, oh damn it, he didn't mean that. I didn't look at the graphic when it came on screen. Look, I guess this matchup, it's to be honest with you, my confidence is growing with the Slayton Jones connection bit by bit. I think that comes down to a bit of the trust that they're giving with Daniel Jones. Plus, he's getting a little healthier. I'm going to go with Darius Slayton on this one for the flex against Seattle. Seattle's defense has strengthened up in recent weeks. That being said, I do think that the Giants are getting more and more ambitious and surprising with their offense as the weeks go by. Latavius Murray, I think, can find some opportunities. However, I just put the ineptitude of Denver's offense on that board right now to be an issue. So give me Darius Slayton.
DJ?
Give me Latavius, whatever you want to call him. Give me Latavius Murray in this one. While Denver has been mediocre offensively, most of that has been due to the situation with number 3 and his issues and trying to air out the ball. They have run the ball pretty well despite their carousel of running backs. Javonte Williams had some nice games. Melvin Gordon, when they let him play, had some nice games. Latavius Murray, I think, will be all right. I think he's going to cross the goal line. I think that's going to be the biggest difference. Even if he only has like 10 carries for 30 yards, there will be a TD in there, which I think will make the difference. With the Giants, while they are a great team, outside of Saquon Barkley, I'm not touching any of them in fantasy because, like you mentioned, it's whatever it takes to win, whether it's Daniel Jones running, Daniel Jones throwing. The only consistent one is Saquon Barkley. I don't trust this. We might see Kenny Golladay play this week for all we know. We have no idea what these are in their skill position. So give me Latavius Murray, but it's like a 10 points to 8 points is what I'm guessing, something like that. I don't think it'll be a huge difference.
All right, we're going to go to the defense side of things. Who starts? The Giants taking on Seattle with Geno Smith, or the Jaguars taking on a questionable Broncos offense. We don't know who's going on there. For this, let's go with DJ because he just talked about the Giants. So why not?
I like the Giants defense, but Geno Smith, as he said, they wrote him off, and he still has not written back yet. Even without DK Metcalf, I think they will find some ways. I think the Giants will probably win the game, but I do think the Seahawks will find their mark. Kenneth Walker has really emerged into an elite running back the way he's playing right now. I think that'll open things up. Denver is still an absolute catastrophe. I think even with Jacksonville's defensive questions, you could say, I think they do have a pretty good pass rush with Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker in the rotation they have there. That'll frustrate Russell Wilson, his torn hamstring, his high knees on the airplane, his still pooping toilet. That's just an absolute mess right now. So I'm going to take
commercials.
So yeah, go ahead and give me a Jacksonville in this one, just because I think the Giants, they'll be fine, but I think Seattle will find a few more cracks in the armor. And Jacksonville in London is insanely good for some reason.
That's true. That's true. You cannot underestimate the fact that Shad Khan's bringing the team to their second home. You can't forget that. Yeah, look, I'm going to be honest with you. Seattle's offense, in terms of Kenneth Walker alone, that young man's already budding into something that could be potentially special down the road. Geno Smith definitely is on a tear this year. Talk about a guy that I think has a chip on his shoulder from just a 10-year career of being told what he is. I don't think that you're going to see the Giants have a better day than the Jaguars. And I think Jacksonville has everything right in front of them. You have a quarterback coming back, like you said, from a hamstring issue, and one that I think maybe is getting some things in his head just from how the media's been talking about.
Wolverine blood.
Dude's the biggest meme in the NFL this year. He is the meme of the NFL season. Give me the Jaguars defense in this one. And that's a rarity. This is like the 1 week you can take the Jaguars on a stream to me, just how the year's gone for them.
He's such a meme that even kickers are making fun of him at this point as well, too, with Justin Tucker saying, Ravens flock, let's fly, and talk about Lamar leading them in high knees on the plane. So that's how you need to know as a kicker is making fun of a quarterback. That is how big of a meme he has become.
Dear God.
Which means he's going to get 4 touchdowns this week.
And now we'll go to the Jim's Boom Pick of the Week. Let's see if I can go back to back with my hits of the Boom Pick of the Week. This week, I'm picking Marcus Mariota. Atlanta scrappy this year, and they have a chance this week to really solidify themselves as a division title contender with the Saints, Panthers, and Buccaneers struggling to win. He's projected to get 16.8 points, and last week he got 15. But one thing that's interesting about Marcus Mariota this season, he is 61% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, but he's also running the football like the days of old. So give me Marcus Mariota having a Boom Pick of the Week for this week, and watch Atlanta solidify themselves as a division contender here in the AFC or NFC South. Now let's go to, Kelsey's not here, but let's go to our picks of the week. Primetime pick'ems, week 4 or week 8, quarter 4. Let's go.
Let's go. This is the part that everyone's been waiting for. We get to take a look at the pick'ems. First, let's recap a little bit of last weekend. Once again, Zach continues to just stay slightly out in front of me by the slimmest of margins, having 9-4 last week just by the skin of his teeth. DJ with a still close behind 8-5. Jim following up with an 8-5, and Kelsey bringing up the rear with still a positive record at 7-6. Looking at our season totals, Zach is the first one to crack the 60 mark at 61, 39-1. I'm still close behind, but starting to lose falling a little bit behind as well, too. Starting to turn into a silver medalist right now. 57, 33-1. Kelsey cracking the 500 mark as well, too. I believe he did actually last week, but further closing in the gap. 52, 41, 48-1. And Jim, the 500 mark is very close, just elusive at 49, 51-1. This is the week we pass it. So, gentlemen, we're going to go into our 3 games. We're going to start with an NFC West Battle Royale, which before the season, we thought this would be probably the game of the week, but how they've played this year, not so much. The Rams taking on the 49ers, and of course, Kelsey is not here to defend his Rams pick right now, as well as the rest of us are all on San Fran. And any doubts here? We all feeling pretty comfortable that the Kyle Shanahan over Sean McVay thing will continue.
You know what? I'll give Kelsey's day in court. I'll take this one in terms of that. Sure, my pick does go and strive from that. For some reason, Kyle Shanahan knows how to play against the LA squad led over there by Sean McVay himself. Though I think right now I'm having some self-doubt in terms of this 49ers team. It's been a little bit disappointing. I know Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't their main option to start, but I think that, I think there's some opportunities, and maybe you have LA that's a little desperate saying, look, our season hasn't gone the way it has. This is a do or die moment. We can't let them sweep us again like we have in years past. So that's as best I got. Maybe Sean McVay just kind of concocting something, having a game plan that's set and a little more unique this time. However, this is the 49ers, and no matter what, when they play the Rams, that fan base comes out, and it's always a home game for, for San Francisco. It just is bound to happen. I got to stick with it. They get the home crowd. They still also have their core guys that have led them to championship and Super Bowl contention for years, including last year's game where they almost pulled it off against Los Angeles, just had to hold on at the end. Give me another win in the regular season for Kyle Shanahan's crew.
All right, and you got to imagine we'll see a little bit more CMC this week, especially with no Deebo Samuel as well. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on, and it gives Kelsey another potential island to gloat on if it comes to fruition as well. Going on into our next game, the Sunday primetime matchup, the Bills and the Packers, and none of us have any faith in the Cheeseheads as well, too. We are all on the Buffalo train, and Jim, what made you decide to go with Buffalo besides the fact that they're better in every facet? Didn't set you put much there today.
It's Buffalo. Green Bay doesn't have an offense. Buffalo can score on anybody. Buffalo can have Joe Biden out there quarterback and still score touchdowns. That's how good our offensive line is. I'm picking Buffalo because it's Buffalo. Like I don't trust the Packers right now. Just don't.
That is a fair assessment as well. Which is we're going to move on now to the Monday night Halloween game. And once again, we are all on the Bengals as well. The Browns, as I mentioned, they are 4-0 against the Bengals in the Kevin Stefanski head coaching era. No Jamar Chase now either. What could be a potential major hip injury. Still figuring that out as well. Very interesting. We're all on the Bengals here, and my reasoning was mostly because I think Joe Burrow is cooking, and the Browns are basically having trouble finding themselves right now as well. I think this season is out the window. They're waiting for a full season of Deshaun, basically. And it sounds like we're all kind of on the same train, but we think Joe Burrow continues his hot streak.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, look, the Bengals right now, they recent weeks, the Zach Taylor offensive machine is kicking back into high gear like it should. Star players are hitting their strides. Credit Jamar Chase, unfortunate injury, going to be out at least for a good chunk of the season, but he'll be back later on. And they have the weapons to supplement it. Remember, Tyler Boyd's been in this offense even before they started getting good, and he was a reasonable target at that point. And T. Higgins, kind of really the second man, almost the Reggie Wayne to Marvin Harrison type of guy in that offense. He definitely can hold up and supplant as a number one receiver on any other team, I think, in the NFL. He very much can hold that down as well. And they got Joe Mixon, who also has had a bit of a uptick in recent weeks. They're going to be just fine. Cleveland right now, I think they're just trying to get through the year at this point. Credit, there's been close losses, but given certain circumstances, and they're waiting on a specific QB that has other issues to wait through, lots of suspension games. Yeah, I mean they're just hoping to get wins. I think that their playoff window's dwindling. This one might be a nail in the coffin type of game for them in terms of what the outcome of their year is.
Not to mention Cincinnati's second half defense has not given up a touchdown in a very long time, either second half or fourth quarter. Point is, once they get past halftime, they've been very, very good. And I like that you said Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne, because that takes us to Kelsey's island of the pick of the week. And once again, he is taking the Colts, which, you know what, good luck, sir. I wish you good fortune in this war to come. He has faith in the Sam Ehlinger machine against a Washington team that is scrappy, I think, just like their quarterback. I think it's fair to say Colts still have all those playmakers, and sometimes you see that quarterback change, and everyone picks up their game a notch as well, too. And Sam Ehlinger has one of the best quarterback coaches you could probably get right now in Matt Ryan at this point with the way Matt Ryan is doing it. And nobody's seen Sam Ehlinger play outside of preseason. So could be a little bit of an element of surprise with two mediocre-ish teams going head-to-head as well. So, all right, Kelsey's Island. We'll see if if the Colts can come through for him again. He's one-on-one with Colts as an island. We'll see if he gets a positive record. But that will do it for us here on 4th and 4. We appreciate you all joining us. DJ joined by Jim and Zach as well, too. We will see you guys again next week. Thank you all for joining us. And hopefully I catch up to Zach in the pick-em this week.